Exactly as one might expect, Sadiq Khan has now hinted that the UK could rejoin Europe in the medium to long term in a departure from Labour's official stance. He says that Keir Starmer wants to reset relations with European allies, and he did not believe that Britain would rejoin Europe in his lifetime. However, Sadiq Khan has said in the medium to long term there will be need to have a conversation about whether we have a better future inside the EU or outside it. Of course, we have a better future inside the EU. We knew this in the 1970s, which is why we joined. And we know it now, now that we are out of the club and suffering all the misery of the extended paperwork for animals, for food, for human travel, and simply this obsession with bureaucracy. If anyone is good at bureaucracy, I'm afraid it's Europe, and we are savaged with bureaucracy. And the Labour Party says it's going to seek to improve the UK's working relationship with the EU within our red lines. No return to the single market, customs union, or free movement. That's all well and good, but in the long run, I think Sadiq Khan is absolutely right. It's about the long-term trajectory. The long-term trajectory is about returning to the EU or returning to a comparable organisation. The EU has many faults, and it certainly needs serious reform. I think, actually, oddly, Brexit gave the EU a sufficient strike that a lot of the reform that was needed has taken place. But I think while the bureaucracy is still there in force, it will again get out of control. Can a comparable organisation, an alternative EU, exist that can avoid some of the pitfalls of the present monolithic organisation? I don't know. The EU as a concept worked very well for about 40 years for us, and I imagine another organisation could do the same. Sadiq Khan says, but it's not possible in the short term for us to rejoin the EU. I think referendums are once in a generation issues. In the medium to long term, there will need to be a conversation about whether we have a better future inside the EU or outside it. I would hope that conversation would take place within the next 10 years. And I think I'm very optimistic that we will rejoin. There's a political party called Rejoin EU, and I think that's probably one of the most interesting parties because it's ramping up support very quickly in a way that UKIP didn't. UKIP took a long time to become a party of significance. Rejoin EU has already passed that point and fielded a number of candidates in the last election, some of whom did quite well. And certainly Rejoin EU did well in the London mayoral elections. So I think that's something to keep your eye on in the medium term. I'm not as pessimistic as Sadiq Khan. I think this is about a medium-term solution, not a long-term solution.